Hello and welcome back to another Nordic Takedown video. Today it's me, Jonah, and Adam here.
Hello, everyone. Glad to be back here. We are going to do a follow-up on our Anakin deck, basically.
Yeah.
Can't say Anakin just blue anymore. We'll show you why.
Yeah.
This is our update from to jump to the Lightspeed.
Yeah.
Is it still... We thought it was going to be the best deck, maybe in Twilight. It wasn't quite, but is it still good here? Our first, a big shout out to King Smudge in our Discord, who keeps having this Anakin deck thread alive.
Yeah.
Not single-handedly, but he's like the guy that really wants to make this work, and
Yeah.
so do we. We really like Anakin, and
Yeah.
as you can see here, it's Anakin Blue still, but with Colossus.
Yeah.
So that's the version we are gonna focus on today.
Yeah. So this is actually the outline from our last video, but it's going to be a bit different today. We will not talk about why Anakin, but focus mainly on how Anakin can utilize the new base, Colossus.
Yep.
And then we'll revisit a little bit, talk about how Anakin has been doing in set 3 and what made the deck good. But rather than focusing on matchups, and last time we had already results, you had played this in a tournament and we played it a lot online. Now we're more in the kind of exploratory phase, so we'll focus more on lists and some cards that could be really good in Jump to Lightspeed.
Yeah. So it's still a soft control deck, basically.
Yeah.
Like, sure, it turned out in the beginning when we played this deck in set 3, it was a kind of a hard control list in a way, but we moved back to the more soft control stuff, using the blue-red heroism shell,
Yeah.
which is still there. It's still the base core of the deck.
Yeah.
It's still units that figures out with a good with Anakin and his ability.
Yeah.
That is still the way we still want to play it. Pretty flexible. All these things are still cores of the deck. As you can see, Cassian hiding behind my face, and the Great Dragon is the big end game for the deck.
Yeah. So this is kind of a recap. This is still the same as it was in last set, but
not
now,
really changed. Yeah.
It's going to be a bit different. But before we go into what's different, let's take a bit of a recap and see how Anakin did in set 3. And on the image here from Su Competitive Hub, you can see he got tied for the 7th most PQ wins with 5.
Yep.
And he had pretty similar percentages when it comes to top 8 also. So did relatively good. And as you mentioned, he was played a lot, kind of popular deck.
Yeah. Like, a lot of people liked Anakin, like the Clone Wars Anakin, and like this trading up, and you could play him very flexible. You could go like this one-shot thing with bravado, lightsabers. You could play him more control. I think he appealed to a lot of people.
Yeah, and even Anakin Green got a PK win.
True. Yeah.
So then we also played it a little bit in the more of the beginning of the season.
Yep. I had the Cantina Brawl 2 that was very early, before any PQs, anything like that, store showdowns. That was after that we did the first tactic video, since we kept it a bit hidden before that, wanted to test it out. Got second place, lost to the Sabine in the final, very sadly. And then you had the later tournaments with mid-season tournaments.
I played Anakin a lot in the online Take the Initiative League and managed to win the top cut in Season 9. So actually I faced 3 Sabines back-to-back.
Yep.
But by then we had some regional governors in the list that really worked well. And then I took it to the PQ in Copenhagen, where I met some Sabines and Hans in Swiss that I managed to win against, but I ended up losing into the Bosque Green in the finals, also went second place.
Yeah, both these bigger tournaments we won Swiss undefeated to lose in the finals.
Yeah.
So very close to be a really successful story for our Anakin.
Yeah. Okay, and then we're gonna revisit the list a little bit, because that also changed from the Cantina Brawl when we made a video.
Yes.
So this is
Yeah.
not the most recent list, because in the end of set 3, we revisited the lightsabers, we removed Poes and Obi-Wans, but this was the one I played in Copenhagen.
Yep. As you said, we did a lot like to try to fight the aggro a bit more. Control was not really that big of a thing in the end. So like less of fells. I think even we tried a little less pillage for a while, like try to figure out how to just fight them. I played Ketsu Onyu to try to fight the Bosks, especially Bosk Green, stuff like that.
Okay, so then enough with the past. Now moving on to Colossus.
Yeah, this is like the big buff, basically, that we hope for, at least for Anakin.
It's a maybe.
It's a maybe. It comes with some pros and cons, obviously. It says here on the card, 35 HP, that is a plus. And draw one less card in your starting hand.
Yeah.
So one of the obvious pluses is that Anakin himself gets more damage depending on how much damage he's taken. Which means that you have basically one extra damage that you can take on Anakin. And since one of his weaknesses is that he deploys on 6 resources, you get more chance here against the aggros to stabilize when he flips to really push the game.
And that is kind of the bridge on why you want to play this, maybe, because in the beginning of Jump to Lightspeed, when we just explored a lot of different stuff, it seemed like the meta was very fast, a lot of aggro, and kind of difficult for Anakin to survive in that meta.
Yeah, it felt like he didn't get much bonuses, if you talk about the 30 HP base, to really combat these. Like Django got some nice tools. Django was a fairly close matchup before, but like with these new tools, like we felt like Anakin needed something more. And that's what we hope here with the 35 HP, that is one of those.
But then we have the cons, of course. You have less cards, so you're a bit more susceptible to discard, which is bad in the mirror, and Quinlan or other cards decks that play that. And then maybe the biggest one is the one less card in your starting hand. So like your odds of getting a turn 1 play are decreased.
Yeah, and also your planning phase is harder. Like a lot of Star Wars Unlimited is like you have these 4 cards. You can see like, okay, I have turn 1, 2, 3, and maybe you can save this 7 drop, like if it's really important. But like here, you really need to have one turn 1, 2, 3, because
resourcing.
You could draw into removals and stuff that doesn't work. So
let's then look a bit at your odds now, because you probably don't want to miss your turn 1 play with Anakin. That was one of the things that made Anakin really good, being able to play these 1/4s and do efficient trades.
One of the ways you actually felt like you lost with Anakin a lot was when you couldn't drop that turn 1 play. You couldn't get tempo on the board, even if it just meant an R2 to Cypher.
And what you can see from the numbers here is that you approximately want to play 2 to 3 more turn 1 plays if you want approximately the same odds. So if you used to play 12, now you probably want to play 14.
Yeah, and like, which you could already see a little. You can see that as a downside as well, to having to play more 1-drops. In a way, I don't think it's that big of a deal, since we already leaned off on the pose and what's his name, Obi-Wan. If we lean into that strategy, which we will soon show that we are, then having multiple 2-drops so you can play on turn 5 and stuff like that is very important. So
let's cut to the chase and look at the first lists.
So we are going to show two lists here today, like my build and then Jonahs, and they are a little bit different, of course. But here you can see I have chosen to go on 13 2-drops, which but adding in You're All Clear Kid, I think that's what it's called, which is like a space removal card turn 1. which I think is very important for Anakin, because one of the ways you could kind of run him over was Sabine starting space, maybe Django starting space, because
Yeah.
we don't really have good 1/4s in space to follow up with. So that is like my complementary turn one play to our core, which is R2, 3PO, and Governor.
There is one 1/4 in space, but it's just vanilla stats and
Yes,
not the most
could be Vista, but it's
useful.
not that sexiest card.
Yeah.
And for me, I've chosen to play Ketsu Onyu, and 2 of the Arc. Ketsu is very good at removing cheap upgrades, which could be early pilots. Bosk bounties, I think that might be a little less. We're going to see that now. But it can also just go phase and remove a shield from a crafty smuggler if you go first.
Yeah.
Which is not the worst.
Yeah.
Other things.
And having Saboteur is really nice.
Yes.
I played a Gar Saxon Blue and got punished by that earlier this week, actually.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true. Another card that makes this is one of the most important inclusions for the deck now. It is the Red Squadron X-Wing, I think it's called, or something Squadron
that's
X-Wing.
Right.
It's a 3/4 in space. Space is more meta now, but that's not why it's really the strongest thing. It's the ability to, if you want to you can take 2 damage on it to draw a card.
Yeah.
So we mentioned like you start with less cards. That is like a downside. Now in my version here, you have CPO and the Red Squadron to help you draw back cards. Of course, Yoda also does that. So you have these card engines that try to get you back on the level pegging with cards. And the option is really strong with this card.
That's true. And then I'm also wondering, the Resolute, that's a new edition.
That's a new edition. I actually played Resolute very early in our first list in Twilight, because at that time we didn't really know if clones was going to be a thing, like swarm things, because that one can really nuke a board with like a lot of TIE fighters, for example, and like basically swarm decks. People have been trying here in the beginning. It's also a 10 to throw with a force throw. So it can kill some pretty big things, like these pilot leaders. If they jump on, they get insanely big with HP, and just force throwing a Resolute in their face could be pretty good. It can also play as early as maybe for 7 resources. 6 doesn't have to be as late as a Crate Dragon. So that's something I try out. It could easily be something that gets removed depending on the meta.
And then you viewers might be wondering now, what happened to the K2?
Yep. Short answer is no glory, only results. Do you want to say why
so
that is bad?
K2 has been a staple since day one, because it's a 2-for-1, so it's amazing against control. Never was that good into aggro. You would rather have the Canaans. So now it's not good to aggro, and Villainy Control has just gotten a removal card that puts the discard towards you, which is so punishing. So it's kind of too risky to play in those matchups, which means, okay, maybe it's a sideboard card. I used to have it in the sideboard in the beginning, but I figured, okay, there's so many other great cards. Like you will see later, there's so many cards that you can play in this deck, but you just don't have space.
And I think K2, you could play it if it wasn't for Django, right, and all these things, because no glory only results is like, some people could argue that Fell is a better card in a vacuum, but with all these great when defeated effects on these really meta decks, no villain control will choose Fell over no glory.
They'll at least play 3 and maybe something else in the side.
Exactly. So as you said, like K2 becomes way too dangerous. Another boost for the deck is Sham Syndulla in the sideboard. Because it was kind of rough sometimes for Anakin, especially maybe against Palpatine sometimes, when they just ramped on you and you couldn't really punish because you played low HP units. You could like smash face so hard. Here versus ramp decks, you just put in Sham and you can ramp with them, get Anakin out earlier. Also very good against Han Yellow if they want to play above curve. You can do that. if you get DJ'd, you can still play Cham and still get Anakin out that crucial turn.
Yeah.
So that really good buff.
Yeah. Let's move on to my list. And I named
quite
this
a lot
one.
of differences.
Yeah. I named this one 2-drop city because in the beginning I think I played like 16 2-drops or something. I was just already in set 3 playing so many of them and thinking, okay, I want the redundancy, but now I've gone down to I think there are 15 turn 1 plays if you're not counting your
plus the now you're a clear kid, so almost 17.
But that's the thing. It's pretty nice to have opening hand with both, like having the arena dodging capabilities. And I used to play some Anakin interceptors too, but I cut them. And as you can see, the list is very blue. I've kind of really heavily leaned towards blue cards because of Quill.
Yep.
So he will have a very, very consistent draw. And maybe that's a partial reason why I'm not playing more Red Squadron X-Wings. I'm not too stoked on them yet, haven't tried them as much. But also the 3-2 is kind of susceptible to Tarkentown. So I still prefer Concordance and a lot of the cards we already play. But Redemption is a card I want to try more. So having one in the main currently. And behind Adam there is the third crate inside.
Hard to show it, but it's there. It's a big crate dragon.
There's a lot of similarities, of course, but the removal package is quite different.
Yeah, you have no pillages in main, for example. I'm not sure. I don't have it either, but that is also a new thing. We also always mained the pillages before.
At least 2. So you're going for Fell and 2 takedowns, so I'm not respecting Han as much. But I have the Perilous, which is pretty good into Han.
And I skip those.
Then,
but you have a more could we say like semi-flexible like removal package with 1 rivals, 1 takedown, 2 vanquishes. Meanwhile, I'm focusing on the big targets. Big targets needs to get removed with Fell.
So I had 3 vanquish, but I was thinking, okay, I think I can fit in the rivals fall here with all of these pilots. Can be pretty tough, and it's really good in mirror and some other leaders you might want to defeat. But I think the main change is Quill. I kind of like him even against space decks because of the restore, and he kind of demands an answer unless you're just gonna get so many cards, and playing 2 cheap cards a turn is really powerful.
And like I think like one small difference was like I was on lightsabers and you have a bravado as well. Like if you want to make Quill even more consistent, maybe you can just play lightsaber over a bravado, for example. It's just 1 card.
I think lightsabers can be good. It's just I don't know in the meta might be more
removal.
Upgrade removal, and bounce is still an issue.
It's the meta is so open right now, so a lot of these cards we might end up with our list mixed up in the end. Like
of course, this is just to show kind of a bit of the exploration phase right now. So then a lot of cards that wouldn't fit.
Or can fit potentially in one of your lists depending on playstyles.
So we already mentioned the lack of Poe and Obi-Wans.
Basically, short answer for that is we felt like they were a bit too slow, a little bit like unimpactful and not impactful enough. They didn't push us where we wanted to be, really. And we don't think they are now either.
And I mentioned Redemption could be better now with 35 life because you kind of get there, more likely to get there. And if you play against Django, they play a Devastator dealing 4 and leaving a 9/6. Healing 8 or 7 and then having a unit to trade with at 9/6 is a very good answer.
Very strong, very strong. Here you see, I can start with Fang that was in my sideboard. Obviously, they are an anti-upgrade thing. They can defeat leaders when they deploy as upgrades, which is really strong if that is meta. So depends.
Yeah, I think they're probably very good still. I just ended up not finding space for them, but
also you play Quill, which you want. You have to. They have to be really good to be a red card to put into your deck.
And Sabine is also another 2-drop I played in the 16 because it's really nice into Django with all the 1 life units and having
and Crafty Smugglers.
Crafty Smugglers, 3 power is really good against Han Yellow, so you can finish off those 3 5s.
Yeah, not just DJ, but tech and like maybe slaves or whatever they are playing now. So, and Stila Guerrera is someone you used a bit. I never used her.
I really liked her as a sideboard card when you're facing control. So I think if we see more control, she's probably finding a place.
Yeah, and since she draws card rights, that's her thing, which is we have 1 less, so she could be even more important in this set, depending on how you build your deck.
She's sacrificing life for cards, and that kind of could work with
Works
Colossus
out with Colossus. You have more HP, and you get maybe the right card instead of a random.
And then the open fires.
Maybe they should be fine. I'm not sure. It depends on the meta a little bit, but it's still a great card. It's also 3 cost, which is easy for 3 PO and draw. So if you prefer open fire to any of like other removals, like it's not weird to put it in.
I kind of thought of replacing them with your all clear kid. So first pushed them to the side, but then ended up cutting. But if we see more aggro, could be nice finding space for them.
Both, and Rivals does what Rivals does, and Bravado. Everyone knows Anakin can swing, could be a good like main or sideboard card depending on meta.
When you get to that point with 30 life on your base, you can almost 1-turn kill.
It's pretty sick. Especially these 25 HP bases.
And then here we have some new cards that we thought are worth talking about.
Do you want to go first there because you are a little bit of a fanboy of the Profundity?
Is a very expensive card, so it kind of fights with Crate and Redemption and those cards. Could be a sideboard card, but still a little bit weak to the No Glory removal. But if you play it and get to discard 2 cards from your opponent with the when played, you're already in a very happy spot.
Definitely a good one. If control becomes the meta. Right now it's not really looking like it, but the meta can really evolve when you find these right cards that are hidden in the set. I added the Tentative 4, I think that's supposed to be.
Tentative,
Is it 6? It's basically just a big sentinel for space. Another one, like I think also when more against mid-range decks that puts a lot of space threats, maybe Piet, for example. You get like an X-Wing token, you can dodge for a round, which could mean everything for Anakin if he's out and get to swing.
Exactly. Sentinels are kind of key. We already have Village Protector and the Conquer Dawn, but Attentive and Perimeter could be another Sentinel unit you could play just to have a bit more.
It has the same issue as Obi-Wan. If it gets waylaid, it's not fun, but the space decks might not run waylays, and then it's okay.
And Landing Shuttle is kind of like the red. It could net you a card, but when defeated, it's not as consistent as when played.
Definitely not. And I think that's also a little bit more against the control decks, like maybe a Palpatine or something. You can afford to have a weak stat line card that nets you a card when he removes it, and you want to go wide and just ship in damage. Then we have some niche things here. I can just direct hit, defeat a non-leader vehicle unit. It's very good in limited, for sure. Could work here as well if the meta becomes a lot of vehicles.
I think right now the other removal cards are just superior, but it's worth considering. And Close the Shield Gate is kind of what could help you close out the game, because
Yes.
Anakin games tend to always go very, very close, like one action away between you doing the big finishing blow with Anakin.
Yeah.
So
It's all gonna be if there is like that are you one action from, or is it like his last attack kills you?
Yeah.
Because that's when that one's gonna shine.
yeah, exactly. So we already have some restore, and maybe redemption could put you out of that range, but this could be another way to do it cheaply.
Yeah, especially against these, maybe they have one big unit left that's gonna hit you. You can just play that, and then you're fine.
Yeah. And again, shout out to the Discord thread where people have been suggesting some of these.
Yeah, for sure. And we are referring to the Nordic Takedown Discord with the Anakin Blue deck, the deck thinking.
Yeah,
if
so
you don't find
link in
it.
description.
Yeah.
All right, I think that about sums it up. We both have played on some streams, so if you want to see some Anakin gameplay, you can check out Cantina Roll 2 or the Copenhagen PQ.
Yep. Obviously, the deck runs fairly similar, so you can get an idea how we play it. And you just add the new cards and your style.
And then stay tuned for upcoming streams. We have the Stars Unlimited
Malmö
Open Qualifier
yep.
on the 29th. So if you don't want to see the big Milan stream, check out
this one, the Nordic players.
We will have Victor and co-casters, so it'll be really entertaining.
It would be really nice. And you and I are going, and we are also going on the 12th, assuming your trains are in time, which is the Cantina Brawl 3, basically, with a lot of Carbonite boosters in the prize pool. Yeah. So it's going to be really nice.
Yeah. All right, that sums up the video. Let us know in the comments and in the Discord thread if you think Anakin has a chance.
Yeah, and if you have ideas, don't just comment here on YouTube. Just join the Discord and join us there in this deck threads.
Yeah, and then stay tuned. You'll probably hear from us back after these tournaments to see if we ended up playing this or if we've found something else.
Yeah.
All right.
Sounds good. May the force be with you. Thanks for watching.